fiscal year 2026 budget hearing for the agencies underneath the jurisdiction of the Legislative Branch Appropriations Subcommittee. This is my first hearing with the Appropriations Committee, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to serve as chairman of this subcommittee. I'm also grateful for Chair Collins and Leader Thune for the commitment to bring appropriation bills to the Senate floor. I would like to welcome Ranking Member Heinrich, who was kindly enough to invite me on to Codell over the break, and unfortunately I wasn't able to make it, but thank you. I'm looking forward to working with him and other members of the subcommittee in crafting responsible funding for legislative and for the support Congress and the entire legislative branch needs. Today we will, with us, we had Director of the Congressional Budget Office, Dr. Phil Swagel, the Head of Government Accountability's Office, Comptroller General Gene Dodaro. Thank you. And the Director of Government Published Office, Mr. Hugh Halpern. Thank you so much. Before we get into the specific details of the budget request, I want to acknowledge that after years of significant spending, the federal government as a whole must show fiscal restraint. And the majority of the American people want to make sure that their tax dollars are being used efficiently and effectively. The legislative branch is no exception and must demonstrate that we're a good steward of the taxpayers' hard-earned dollars. I want to thank all the witnesses for being here today. I look forward to our discussion and learn more about the agency's priorities for the year. Now I'd like to turn it to the ranking member, Senator Heinrich, for remarks you'd like to make.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I look forward to working with you this year to prepare a fiscally responsible bill that will meet the needs of the Congress and our support agencies so that we can effectively carry out our constitutional responsibilities on behalf of the American people. Thank you to the witnesses providing testimony today and to the folks at your agencies who work every day to facilitate the Congress's work. Mr. Dodaro, the Government Accountability Office plays an important role in providing oversight of government spending. This year, the GAO is requesting nearly $934 million to perform that critical work. I know your agency's workload is large. In fiscal year 2024, GAO received over 550 requests to perform work from 93% of the standing committees of the Congress. This is in addition to the thousands of products, recommendations, and adjudications you all completed. However, with a flat budget in fiscal year 2025, GAO was required to shrink its staffing level and defer critical investments in the agency's operations. I look forward to your testimony about your fiscal year 2026 budget request and to hearing more about what resources you need to support Congress and our government. Dr. Swagel, the Congressional Budget Office has requested nearly $76 million to perform your agency's critical work in support of Congress, an increase of almost $6 million. Now, I understand that in fiscal year 2024, CBO published about 1,100 cost estimates for legislation, in addition to hundreds of reports and informational products to support Congress's work. The work of the CBO requires highly skilled subject matter experts to provide the quality analysis we need to do our job. So I look forward to hearing from you about the resources you need this fiscal year. Mr. Halpern, the Government Publishing Office is requesting $135 million to support personnel costs and resources necessary to carry out the work of your agency, a 2.6% increase. I know that your work is crucial to providing resources to the American people so that they can easily access information about their government. And I understand that a portion of the requested increase in funding pays for the cost of providing a digital format of federal government publications to over 1,000 federal repository libraries nationwide. So I look forward to hearing more about the resources you need to continue to get critical information into the hands of the American people. And again, thank you to all of our witnesses for being here today, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Heinrich. I want to remind everybody that we do have a timer, and I will be strict on it. I'll be strict for the Republicans as much as I'll be strict to our witnesses and to the colleagues in the Democrat Party. Everybody's time is important, and so we have 5 minutes. I would kindly ask all of our witnesses in your statement, when you notice you're about 20 seconds up, look for an ending, because at 5 minutes I'll begin to tap the gavel, okay? So with that, Mr. Swagel, you're up first.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Chairman Mullin, Ranking Member Heinrich, and members of the subcommittee. Thank you for the opportunity to present the CBO's budget request. As you said, Mr. Chairman, CBO requests an appropriation of $75.8 million for 2026. That's an increase of $5.8 million, or 8.2% from the amount that was provided in 2025 and the same amount that was provided in 2024. The request would address increased costs for pay and benefits, allow CBO to improve its IT infrastructure, and add staff in areas of especially intense legislative interest. CBO's mission is to provide nonpartisan analysis to the Congress that is timely, rigorous, and transparent. When legislation is heading to a vote, we provide cost estimates and real-time analysis of amendments, sometimes hundreds or even thousands of them for bills such as the NDAA. We provide analysis and technical assistance as the legislation is being developed, such as is the case now with reconciliation. We produce budget and economic projections that incorporate the effects of recent legislation, economic developments, and administrative actions. Those administrative actions have been an especially big part of our work in the last couple of months. And we provide analysis of a broad range of policy issues confronting the Congress, bringing to bear data and research from a variety of sources, including experts who members tell us to go talk with. With continuing strong interest in CBO's work, the additional resources I've asked for this year would enable us to do even better on both responsiveness and transparency. In 2025, CBO will maintain its staffing at 270 employees, and we will focus on the highest priority efforts of preparing cost estimates, providing technical assistance for legislation, and analyzing the economic and dynamic budgetary effects of proposed policies. We are reducing our expenditures elsewhere. We've deferred some hiring and are waiting on some longer-term improvements in our IT infrastructure. For 2026, a little more than half of our requested increase, about $3 million, would cover increases in current employees' salaries and benefits, and then would enable CBO to expand in key areas of congressional interest. The full request would allow CBO to add 15 employees to go up to 285, and I would add analysts first in healthcare, in dynamic analysis, national security, and homeland security. The remaining 48% of CBO's increase, about $2.8 million, would address increased costs to enhance our cybersecurity and our IT infrastructure, including for some projects that are on hold this year with the resources we have. This spending is aimed at protecting sensitive data and improving the agency's computing power for analyzing complex data sets. Our requested budget would support our goal to provide budgetary and economic information when it is most useful to the Congress. We will support the appropriations committees by providing real-time, provision-by-provision estimates of the 12 annual appropriation bills and any supplemental appropriation bills or continuing resolutions. We will also respond to thousands of requests for technical assistance and preliminary estimates, often on quick turnarounds as committees craft legislation. We will provide hundreds of cost estimates as required by statute, and for nearly all of them, provide them before a floor vote. We'll also publish dozens of statutory or requested reports on a wide variety of topics, from opioids to immigration, Navy shipbuilding, wildfires, many other things. And then we offer help in person, by phone, video, to member offices as you and your staff craft legislation. In summary, to achieve our goal of being as responsive as possible, CBO requests an increase of $5.8 million. With your support, we look forward to continuing to provide timely and high-quality analysis to the Congress. Thank you again. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, sir, and thanks for being efficient with your time, too. I guess that's what CBO is supposed to be. Appreciate you setting the standard. Sir, I'm going to say this one right this time, so don't correct me. Let me do it right.
Okay.
Dorado. Dodero. Correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman.
You're up. Thank you.
Absolutely.
I'm going to call you Gene by the time this is over with, by the way.
Gene is fine.
And then if I say Gene, you can call me Markwayne. We're good.
All right. That's a deal.
All right.
That's a deal. Mr. Chairman, good morning to you, Ranking Member Heinrich, Senator Rounds. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about our request. We appreciate the support that we've received from this subcommittee over the years and the Congress as a whole. We give a good return on that investment. Last year, as a result of Congress and the agencies implementing our recommendations, there's over $67 billion in financial benefits to the government. In the last 6 years, we've averaged $123 back for every dollar invested in us in financial benefits to the government. This year, we updated our high-risk list, which we do at the beginning of each new Congress. There's over 38 areas on that list, everything ranging from Medicare, Medicaid, to the defense weapon systems, to the tax administration system. This year, we added improvements needed in the delivery of disaster assistance to individuals. FEMA's stretched way too thin, too many agencies are involved, recoveries drag out too long, reforms needed in that area. On average, $40 billion of financial benefits come from improvements in implementing our recommendations on the high-risk areas. We also do an annual report on overlap, duplication, and fragmentation in the federal government. So far, we've issued over the past 14 years 2,000 recommendations. 73% have been fully or partially implemented. That's led to over $667 billion in financial benefits. So both as high-risk areas and the work on overlap, duplication, and fragmentation are very important work that leads to government efficiency and effectiveness, and we need to continue to have the resources necessary to continue those efforts. As Senator Heinrich mentioned, demand for our work is high. We receive hundreds of requests each year. We have about 150 recurring mandates. The NDAA last year had 95 specific requests for GAO studies. The Water Resources Act, another 20 or 30, and FAA reauthorization, another 30 requirements. So most major pieces of legislation have requirements for GAO in those areas. Because of the continuing resolution for this year, we'll have about 126 less people at the end of the year than we've had at the beginning. The request that I put forward next year is for an increase, but even that won't take us back to fully replace those 126 people. As the auditor of the federal government's financial statements, I know too well that the federal government is on an unsustainable long-term fiscal path, and there needs to be efficiencies and effectiveness, and I'm trying to be respectful of that need in our requests going forward, recognizing that GAO has tremendous value that brings to the government to help solve that problem as well. We do work for over 93% of the standing committees of the Congress. The main areas that I would like to make sure we maintain and increase: national security is an important area. As I mentioned, we do a lot of work for the Armed Services Committees, and it's important because of the efforts of our government to try to increase our military readiness and to be, still superior in the world. And also, healthcare. Healthcare continues to be the fastest growing component of the federal budget, except for interest on the debt right now. Cybersecurity, not just federal systems. We do work looking at critical infrastructure systems, our water systems, electricity grid, telecommunications, et cetera. And also science and technology. Congress has specifically asked us to increase our science, technology, assessments, capability work, do more work, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, hypersonic weapons, et cetera. And so those are the main areas that we increase to continue to do our work. And I just want to also publicly recognize the GAO workforce, which is one of the most talented and dedicated workforces in the world. This is the last year of my term. I've been in this job now for 17 years. I've been in GAO over 52 years. And, but I can tell you that the GAO workforce will continue to find work that we've been known for. Thank you very much for your attention. I know you'll give careful consideration to our requests.
Thank you so much, Mr. Halpern.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Ranking Member Heinrich, Senator Rounds. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present GPO's FY26 request. On behalf of my 1,653 teammates, we are requesting appropriations of $135.4 million for FY26, which is an increase of about $3.4 million over our FY25 appropriation. This request incorporates increased labor and material costs while accommodating certain important initiatives for Congress and the rest of the legislative branch. This is a 2.6% increase, which I'd note is lower than the rate of CPI over the last 12 months. Many of you are new to GPO and may not realize that we operate as a business enterprise. And directly appropriated funds represent only about 9% of our total revenue. In FY 2024, the remainder of our nearly $1.3 billion in revenue came from GPO's billings to its other federal customers, such as the Department of State, National Archives, Department of Defense, and countless others. We sell products and services to those customers, and we adjust pricing based on the cost of materials, labor, and overhead. As most of GPO's appropriations requests are based on funding for Congress's own publishing needs and the agency's operation of the Federal Depository Library Program, we have also had to increase our appropriations request when faced with increased costs. Our model continues to deliver results. We closed our books for FY24 with a net positive income of $57.5 million, enabling us to continue investing in our team, equipment, and campus. It's also important to note that given the conditions with our customers and increased materials costs, I expect our net income to be lower in FY25, although still positive. Our FY26 request includes $83 million for congressional publishing, which is the same amount as our FY25 appropriation. It's based on our estimate of Congress's likely needs, informed by historical trends and available unexpended balances. For this account, we can offset our increased labor and materials costs through efficiency. Our request for the Public Information Programs account, through which we administer the FDLP, is about $42.9 million. This represents an increase of about $5 million over FY25, and that's due largely to rising labor costs. Our final request is for $9.5 million for GPO's revolving fund to support key technology upgrades, and that's about $2 million less than the amounts appropriated in FY25. About 40% of that amount will support continued development of XPub, our next generation composition engine. We're continuing to push forward with the final stages of development for XPub for bills, resolutions, and amendments. To date, we're on track with the first phase of user acceptance testing with the Senate, and the House began testing last month. While I don't have a firm deployment date, we are continuing to make significant progress with our customers to deploying this critical piece of software soon. The remainder of our revolving fund request is for funds to support GovInfo, our online trusted digital repository. The data in that system supports the Library of Congress, Congress's own bulk data efforts, and dozens of other federal agencies, enabling Americans to access government information digitally rather than in print. The system receives more than 142 million requests a month, and the subcommittee's past support has allowed us to add 260,000 document packages during the last fiscal year. Chairman Mullin, Ranking Member Heinrich, Senator Rounds, thank you for this opportunity to present our FY26 request and for the support you and your staff have extended us in the past. I look forward to answering any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Since I'm here until the end, no matter what, I'm going to defer my questions at the beginning, and I will turn it over to Senator Rounds.
Mr. Chairman, thank you for the courtesy. I most certainly appreciate it, and I will be brief with my Q&As as well today. First, thank you all for being here today and preparing the testimony for us to review. Comptroller Dodaro, first of all, thank you for your extended service to our country. Your contributions have been noted, and they are appreciated. We've seen an explosion in federal agencies experimenting with artificial intelligence, often without clear oversight frameworks in place, recognizing that it is a moving target and that there is no way that it's going away. It's going to be here. And our government will be using it just like the private entities in our country will be using it, and our adversaries will be using it. I'm just curious, sir, has GAO conducted or planned a comprehensive review of how agencies are adopting AI tools, particularly to guard against waste, cybersecurity vulnerabilities, or mission drift? And if so, when can Congress expect any report or an analysis of findings?
Yes. Since 2018, we've issued over 50 reports dealing with artificial intelligence, its use in the defense arena, its use potential in accelerating drug development, and for medical diagnostic purposes and others. We've done the first inventory across federal government of all the use cases that have been put in place. We just issued a report on generative AI and the healthcare and the human effects on the potential workforce. So we're constantly doing work in the AI area. I think it's very important. We've also developed a framework for how to audit artificial intelligence algorithms in terms of the data governance structure, because as you mentioned, it's a moving target. So you're not auditing anything static, particularly in a generative machine learning environment. So we have a robust program. We've tripled the number of people we've had at Congress's urging in the science and technology area. So we've got experts in AI now and large numbers. And I'm very pleased with our program. I'd be happy to provide our plans to the committee, as well as for the record the reports that we've issued in these areas.
Thank you. And I'm going to turn to Director Swagel now. Given the rapid advances in technology and the economy, is CBO developing internal capabilities to model how emerging technologies like AI could impact federal spending and revenues over the next decade? And if I could, between the two of you, explain to me the differences between your missions, specifically with regard to how we look at AI and the development of an analysis of AI and whether or not we're being effective in its use within the government.
Okay, sure. Good. Okay. So we're looking at technology and AI, and the biggest direct impact on the federal budget would be through the overall size of the economy. That if the technology improves, if AI contributes to increased productivity, that will make all workers more productive. It will mean the capital we have is more productive. There will be more GDP and more revenue and a lower deficit. And we've done lots of work on the effects of increased productivity on the deficit. The challenge is understanding where exactly AI fits into the economy and the payoff. And there's lots of analysis. For us, still, it's a little bit too soon to say, okay, there's this bonus from AI, or the economy is bigger as a result of AI. So we're watching that, but we're not there yet. I'll say two last things, and then I'll stop. We're looking at the impacts within the economy, what it means for workers and in different parts of the country. In terms of us versus GAO, in a sense, we look forward. We're looking at what's the projection over the 10-year window, what does AI mean for legislation, and GAO would tend to evaluate backwards, not in a negative sense, but what has happened, and they would make recommendations, whereas we would not.
What you're saying is they deal in facts and you deal in projections.
There's a sense in which that's right. I mean, we try to judge what the facts are and what does it mean for the future, but there's a sense in which that's right.
I think a slight modification to Phil. It's not just past, it's present. We're doing real-time auditing what's going on right now. Now, in AI, a big role that we're going to play is the quality of the data that the agencies are using. From our auditing on an ongoing basis across the spectrum of federal government's operations, I can tell you the quality of the data is not good. And so if you don't have good data going into these systems, you have to worry about bias, you have to worry about accuracy, you have to worry about unintended consequences that might occur. So that'll be a big focus of our efforts. And are their investments actually paying off in producing reliable outcomes that can then make sure that they're carrying out their program objectives?
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Heinrich.
Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Dodaro, GAO receives more than 100 new report mandates a year, plus another 150 reoccurring mandates. In addition, GAO is responsible for informal technical assistance and resolving bid protests. Add to that oversight and auditing of federal programs within the federal agencies. How does GAO's budget request help the agency handle its current workload and any new mandates that are coming down the road currently?
Yes, we maintain active conversations with all the committees across the Congress on what their highest priorities are. So we have a good sense, and we reprioritize as events occur, like as administrations start new initiatives, or there's a change in the environment, for example, a natural disaster, or there's a global conflict, or there's a pandemic or some other event that happens. So our request is based upon our experience dealing with the committees. And only if we receive the request can I guarantee that we'll get to all the priority requests from various committees across the Congress. We're stretched thin. Our budget has not grown as the federal government has grown over the years. I mean, in inflation-adjusted terms, the federal government spending has increased 116%. GAO has decreased 1.4%. So we need this to stay abreast.
You spoke about data. How has the access that DOGE has had and the modifications of government IT systems impacted GAO's ability to conduct oversight and audits of federal programs on behalf of the Congress?
Yeah, right now we're auditing the DOGE access as to the access they had, what changes. We're looking at the digital footprint within each of these major systems across government, where it's Social Security, Treasury, OPM, and others. And so we'll have a better idea about what impact DOGE's access has had on the data systems, and whether there's been any information input into the system or taken out of the system. We spend a lot of time on data reliability before we do any assessment at GAO. This will add another element of complexity to it.
How is that information then communicated back to us?
Well, we'll issue public reports to the Congress.
What's the time frame, do you think, for?
We're just getting started across government, and I don't have one right now. We're going to try to provide iterative reports. In other words, we'll do them as they're available for each agency. I'm not going to wait until we complete this work across the government. And so that'll give some indication. Now, on a positive side, I mean, they've opened up some data barriers that had been preventing the federal government from detecting improper payments and fraud. So there's some benefits. I don't want to imply that there's just concern. So we're going to look at the benefits as well as
Talk to me about
issues.
the data validation. How does GAO make sure the information it gets from agencies is valid, authentic, accurate?
Yeah. Well, a lot of these data. Sure. A lot of these databases we work with year in and year out over time. So first, we'll look at what the agency does itself to validate the information. What kind of checks do they put in place? We'll do some testing. We'll do some data edits to see if there are any anomalies in the data. And so we have a whole set of methodologies and procedures. I've got experts in this area that assist each of the audit teams. And then in some cases, we audit the federal government's financial statements. So we're doing our own sampling and testing of the accuracy of the federal financial information.
I can imagine that's probably never been more important than it is right now. Switching to you for a moment, Mr. Halperin, talk to us a little bit more about the digitization of the publications at the federal repository libraries and what you're looking at there.
Sure. So most documents today begin life as digital documents. So when you drop a bill, that manuscript comes to GPO, and we turn that into electrons. Most of the time, if you go to Senate Ledge Council, we're getting a good file that we can work with. But if you write something on the back of a napkin, our folks will input that data and then we produce a good document, both in PDF and in structured data in a machine-readable format. That's really key to the future. We produce not nearly as many tangible documents as we used to, and that's why we really moved the Federal Depository Library program to a more digital format. And that's something that our library partners wanted as well.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, gentlemen. It's good to see you here today. Mr. Dodaro, as I'm sure you are aware, GAO recently issued observations regarding EPA's submission of notices of decision on Clean Air Act preemption waivers as rules under the Congressional Review Act. In 2020, GAO wrote in a legal decision, quote, "When an agency submits a document to our office under CRA, we consider that to be the agency's determination that the document is a rule under CRA. When a rule is submitted to Congress, Congress has an opportunity to review the rule and pass a joint resolution of disapproval to void the rule," close quote. Do you believe that that statement is true?
It's generally true.
If it is true, why then did GAO not consider these 3 Clean Air Act waivers to be rules when EPA submitted them to your office under CRAs?
Yeah, well, first there was confusion. When EPA first submitted them to us in February 19th, they said they were orders, not rules, subject to CRA, which is consistent with the decision that we made in 2023. They even cited our decision in the first submission. Then a week or so later, they submitted them as if they were rules. And so we asked EPA why there was this inconsistency. We never got a response from them. Now, when you quoted that decision, that GAO language, that was true. We said we don't issue legal opinions once they've submitted it. In this case, this wasn't a legal opinion. It was observations because we had issued the previous opinion in 2023. Now, we didn't change that opinion. It was the same opinion.
Well, in 2023, EPA did not submit the action to GAO as a rule, which meant that GAO was called upon to decide whether that waiver constituted a rule. But in 2025, EPA did submit the 3 waivers to GAO and to Congress under CRA. In this case, precedent would dictate that you consider the document a rule once it was submitted to your office under CRA. So, sir, it is a rule.
Well, EPA asserts it is a rule, but the issue is the same as what
But under
we
your own
addressed.
precedent, it would be a rule.
Not necessarily. If we have prior case law on this issue, which we did in this case. I mean, it's the same issue. In 2023, Congress asked us, shouldn't EPA have submitted it as a rule? And we said no. It's an order under the Administrative Procedures Act, and it remains an order. The president can make changes on this.
But in 2025, though, they did submit the three waivers.
After they submitted it saying it wasn't the rule.
But
they submitted it both ways. And
most recently, they submitted it as a rule. So if you have a precedent saying that agencies have the primary responsibility to determine which agency actions meet CRA definition of a rule, an additional precedent that says that when an agency submits a document to our office under CRA, we consider that to be the agency's determination that the document is a rule under CRA. Doesn't that make it pretty clear that Congress should decide when using the CRA as appropriate after an agency submits that document?
Well, in this case, certain members of Congress had questions about it in terms of our case law. So we have an obligation to inform Congress of our views on these particular issues. And I would, say also that our decisions are not dispositive on the Congress. They're advisory. Congress can overrule our legal decisions. And,
Well, I just believe that we're looking at a completely different scenario than 2023 when you're dealing with an agency action that was not submitted to your agency.
It was submitted to us twice, as I said. Once as an order and then once as a rule.
And then again this year, sir.
Yeah. Well, again, this year it was submitted twice as an order and a rule by EPA, within a week of one another. I'm not talking about 2023. I'm talking about twice in 2025. And I can understand why Congress had questions about it and ask us, well, what do you think? And I don't, we're in business to help the Congress and inform them based upon our work. That's all we did in this case.
I would disagree with you. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your time. Sir, we'll stay with you. I just got a couple of questions, if you don't mind. How many employees right now work for you?
A little over 3,500.
3,500, and what do you feel like the need is?
I think we need to be at least at 3,700. GAO used to be over 5,000 people. There was downsizing in the 1990s. And
we also didn't have the same technology we have today.
That's true, but the government was a lot smaller then, too, than it is now.
And you have a request of how much increase? $122 million?
That's correct.
And what's your total budget?
Total budget right now is $811 million, almost 812.
So you're going to be approaching $1 billion.
That's correct.
That's correct?
Right.
At the same time, we're trying to shrink the federal government. We're trying to use efficiencies. One of the things we try to do is be more efficient. What type of technology are you using to try to offset this? And I use this from let's just use real world, right? Our payables and receivables office doesn't have near as many people in it as it used to. Mm-hmm. Our payroll department doesn't have near as many people in it as it used to because of the new technology that's available to us.
Right.
And I would say most of the research and accounting offices around the country have shrunk considerably. So what type of technology have you changed to be able to absorb that, to be able to help your efficiencies? Because we're cutting all across the government. So it's hard for us to justify $122 million increase, which is roughly 15% for GAO.
Right. Well, I think the first justification from our request comes from the fact that we returned to the government $123 back for every dollar invested. Now,
how many people in your office do you have that specifically, because I've heard you quote that now 3 times, work on that specific issue to tell us how much money you spend, you return back to us?
Well, we actually use estimates from CBO and the Congress. We use third-party estimates.
But how many people do you have in your staff that's designated just to provide that number to us?
Every team does it based upon their own audit work. It's not any central group that does it. They compile it. There's maybe one person there that compiles the numbers as part of a lot of other responsibilities. But it's everybody in GAO's job is to try to be more.
I do hear what you're saying. The issue that we're having here is that we're not going to be able to increase it, and so we've got to get more efficient, and that goes for every agency. We've got to get more efficient, and we're asking the executive branch to be more efficient. The executive branch is becoming more efficient. We have to do the same.
Yeah. One thing that this committee could do to help us in our efficiency is to have the agencies that we audit provide the information more quickly and reliably to us, and because we can then do work a lot faster if the agencies are cooperative.
Sure. Mr. Alburn, can you explain to us what you're doing to become more efficient with the taxpayer dollars as funding?
Sure. So we're trying to automate processes where we can. Some of our requirements are that we support older processes. So for instance, as I was explaining to Senator Heinrich, if you write a bill on a legal pad, I have to be able to take that and turn that into good legislative text. That requires people to do it. We are getting more efficient when it comes to the actual printing. So for instance, we've changed from offset printing for our daily publications to digital inkjet printing, which means I have much smaller crews manning those printing presses.
Now, you mentioned multiple times in your statement that you operate as a business.
We do.
And you have customers.
We do.
On those customers, are they competitive bids, or are you kind of assume the one and only supplier for the needs for printing?
It depends. So, for instance, the U.S. passport, our single largest product, we have one customer. That's the Department of State.
But I mean, you're not bidding against outside private groups to do this.
We are not, because the security requirements for that document are such.
And I say that because you operate like a business, but yet you have an appropriation request plus an increase on it. What keeps you from just adjusting your prices to actually cover your costs? Because if you're operating as a business, then you should have the ability to adjust your costs to be able to make sure it's not costing the taxpayers any extra funding other than to the agency.
The appropriations request covers three things. It covers Congress's own printing needs. Congress decided that it is easier to appropriate those dollars to us directly than to have us bill them per page. So that's $83 million of that request.
Because I'm over time, I'll come back. I want to be respectful of my time, just like everybody else's. I'll turn the question over to Senator Murray.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you to you and Senator Heinrich for holding this hearing. Really important for our ability to be able to write our appropriations bills. So I appreciate it. And I want to thank each of you and all your staff at your agencies for your really excellent support that you provide to this committee and to Congress. You know, from day one, President Trump has unilaterally frozen or contravened critical funding provided in our bipartisan laws. Those actions by Trump and Russ Vogt have really wreaked havoc for our families and communities across the country. That is really not what the Constitution envisioned. Congress has the power of the purse, period. Our presidents cannot pick and choose which parts of a law that they can follow. So, Comptroller Dodaro, I wanted to ask you, you have testified that GAO is investigating the Trump administration's efforts to block federal funds as potential violations of the Impoundment Control Act. What is the status of those investigations?
We have right now 39 different investigations underway. We're trying to get the information from the agencies about what their legal position is for not expending the money. I'm looking forward to what I understand to be a submission by the administration of a rescission package, which will be following the Impoundment Control Act. So we'll look at that. We're monitoring all the litigation surrounding these areas that we're investigating in. Only 3 agencies so far have given us the information that we need. OMB's not been responsive, nor EPA. A number of other agencies are due to get us information this week or next week. So I would imagine starting next month after we look to see what is in the rescission package, obviously.
Next month is in May.
Yeah, pardon me, yes. Okay. Yes, so starting of them. Some, you know, the ones, they won't all come at once. They'll come as we collect and analyze all the information.
What options do you have if you don't get timely or responsive information from the federal agencies?
Well, we'll have to make decisions then on our own based upon the available information. Some of it will be in the lawsuit filings that we're following right now, and then we'll have to go forward doing this. We had to do this in the past in Interior Department, which didn't respond for a long period of time. Congress put in language then, after that experience, in the appropriation law requiring Interior to give us information within a certain period of time. I would suggest respectfully that that be included in this year's appropriation bill specifically as it relates to Impoundment and Control Act decisions, that they're timely in responding to us. We can give you a reasonable time frame. And more broadly, a provision of general cooperation, giving GAO access to the information we need in our audit issues, because this will address the chairman's problem a question about us being more efficient. We can only be as efficient as we can get the information from the agencies. And also, we've had, in some cases, we give agencies up to 30 days to respond to our draft reports. Sometimes they drag on longer.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that, and we, Congress, really rely on GAO's expertise as a nonpartisan expert watchdog. So we appreciate your work, and I'm going to stay on top of this. Look forward to working with you on that. Mr. Swagel, Republicans are, as you know, moving full speed ahead with the reconciliation package, promising to deliver more than $5.3 trillion in new tax breaks for billionaires and large corporations. And at the same time, some Republicans have promised that Medicaid, which is a lifeline for our kids and seniors, is safe. But the reality is Republicans can't keep both of those promises. I want to examine this with you. The Republican reconciliation instruction directs $880 billion in cuts within the House Energy and Commerce Committee, which has jurisdiction over Medicaid, Children's Health Insurance Program, or CHIP. You responded to a question from House Ranking Member Brendan Boyle and Frank Pallone in March regarding spending within the House Energy and Commerce Committee's jurisdiction, excluding Medicare, which Republicans say is off the table. In your response, you said over 10 years, Medicaid outlays will account for 93% of baseline budget projections for energy and commerce. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And if you add in CHIP, is it fair to say you are now talking north of 95%?
That's right. Once you take out Medicaid and CHIP, there's only $381 billion still in the current baseline.
Okay. So looking at Table 1 in that March 5th letter, is it fair to say the remainder is nowhere close to that $880 billion?
That's correct. In the letter that we sent to Mr. Boyle and Mr. Pallone, the dollars after Medicare, Medicaid, and CHIP are much smaller than the instruction.
Yeah. Okay. So just for the record, I just want to say it would appear to me to be impossible for Energy and Commerce, the committee with jurisdiction, to reach the spending cuts required under the Republican reconciliation instructions without cutting Medicaid or putting Medicare back on the table. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Heinrich, I understand you've got a couple more questions.
Mr. Dodaro, what was the ratio again of dollars invested in GAO to dollars saved?
For the last 6 years, it's $123 back for every dollar invested in GAO.
Do we have any data at this time to suggest what the ratio might be from the activities associated with DOGE?
Not at this time. We'll have to take a look at it. They've used some of our reports and have said that they are working to implement some of our open recommendations. We estimate that our open recommendations that Congress or the agencies haven't addressed yet could save up to $208 billion. We issue about 1,400 new recommendations every year. We always follow up on those areas. But how much relates specifically to those, I'm not sure yet.
How can we facilitate that information? How do we?
Well, I expect that we would receive a request asking us to look at their claims for savings at some point. We've not yet received that, but I would imagine that would come at some point. We're tracking it in terms of how they're using our open recommendations so that we can show the results of our work and the impact our work has. If what they're doing beyond implementing our recommendations, we'd have to look at and validate, their
So, for example, if you have a buyout of a federal employee, you have to back that value out of the so-called savings, right?
Well, absolutely, and also if the person becomes unemployed, the federal government has to pay unemployment benefits. There are a lot of put and takes in these things that you have to look at to have a total estimate, because you have to look at the end of the day, what's the net cost?
Right, exactly. I'm looking forward to GAO's analysis of that. You said 3 agencies have been responsive with respect to the Impoundment Control Act issues. What 3 agencies are those?
Ed, I can tell. Which?
State Department of Transportation.
State, Transportation, and?
Those are the 2.
There were only two or three.
One of them had two requests.
Oh, one of them had two requests. So it's state and transportation so far.
So EPA has
No.
not been responsive?
No.
How about Department of Energy?
They're working on it. I'm also outreaching to, as I normally do, I meet with the new cabinet officials and the heads leadership of agencies. I'm due to meet with Secretary McMahon this week. I'll talk to her about that. I had problems with the last administration, the Education Department. They weren't very cooperative, so I'm hopeful that that'll change.
What about Interior?
Interior, so far, has not responded, but I'm going to outreach to Secretary Bergman. I met with Secretary Collins at VA already, and I have meetings set with Secretary Wright at the Energy Department, and I'll meet, with all the leaders across government. I always do that.
I look forward to learning the results of that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Sure.
Thank you. And Mr. Swegel, I didn't have time to ask you any questions the first time, so if you don't mind, how many CBO, or how has CBO been able to absorb the significant increase in cost estimate workload? If you could explain the operational improvements that have helped with that in your employment and employees that you have there.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you. And the number of requests, both the formal cost estimates and the informal technical assistance has gone up. We've done it really in two ways. One is by focusing on the prioritization, and we take our prioritization, from the budget committees and the leadership and the committees of jurisdiction. And we look to them to say, what should we do first? Within the agency, we've shifted to more flexibility within our staff. So we'll have staff who will cover multiple areas that we can shift people around when there's something that's especially urgent. We've done that also in part by shifting to younger staff and hiring staff right out of college who are more agile than some of our older staff.
So that might answer my second question then. Congress is always changing, and we're changing rapidly. Really, it depends on the flavor of the month, what's in the news cycle. How do you adjust for that?
We try, in a sense, to get there before you do, to figure out, what's coming and have our analysis ready. Sometimes we do it. Sometimes we don't get there. There's some things that are perennials. So healthcare is our biggest substantive area. As an example, we've been working on Medicaid now for months to be ready. So is that kind of mix of getting guidance and then using our judgment to see where the Congress is going.
Thank you. Mr. Dodaro, I guess I have more of a comment than a question. There's a concern, especially on our side of the aisle, that the CRA response looked political, especially since you made the opinion in about 8 days. And then that the last time, the EPA had submitted to you, they submitted it to you as a rule. I just would throw this out, and I throw this out to all the agencies. We do not want you to be political. We don't want you to make a political decision. This is the fastest way to get myself or my ranking member upset. I want to run this committee in a very bipartisan, because what we're talking about is bipartisan stuff. There's nothing that comes in front of this committee that should be political at all. But if I perceive it to be, you'll hear from me, and I'll make adjustments as needed. And we as a committee will make adjustments as needed. So when you're making a decision and when you're responding to us, just give us the facts, not your political opinion and your political bias. We deal with that every single day on both sides of the aisle. As I say it again, I do not want that in this committee at all. And I'll hold the members accountable, and I'll hold myself accountable to do it as the same. So with that being said, thank you for
Might I respond?
Yes, sir.
Sir, Mr. Chairman, I can assure you that decision on EPA was not political. It was routine business. We get a question about a prior decision that we made. We didn't change the prior decision. We gave a summary. I know there's appearance issues, but I can assure you, I've been in this job now, as I said, for 17 years. Mm-hmm. I took the oath to keep this job as a nonpartisan job. I have approached it always that way.
I will take your word for it today. but as I say, the proof's in the pudding. And so for now, I'll take your word for it.
I appreciate that.
All right.
And
Guys, appreciate you allowing me to entertain you a little bit as I stumble through my very first hearing. I appreciate your time. Senator Heinrich, appreciate your time too. Look forward to working with everybody and hopefully have a close relationship as we move forward. That committee's closed.